This build is disgustingly good for Grandmasters in Season 23 of Destiny 2. Of course, we're talking about the Exotic Scout Polaris Lance, and what exotic armor piece to pair with it. The answer to that one in this build video is the Path of Burning Steps. In a previous video, I talked a little bit about the Precious Scars, which is still really good if you want to have a ton of healing. But if you want to have even more offensive utility, if healing is not an issue for you, then Path of Burning Steps is definitely the go-to exotic when using Polaris Lance and chilling back with your teammates. A complete breakdown of the build goes as follows. We're going to be using Hammer of Soul. This is going to be the best super for damage output. On top of that, it gives you the safety of chilling back and just throwing the hammers from distance, so you're a little more safe. For the class ability, we're going with Towering Barricade. We're going to be able to put up a lot of Titan walls too, so that way we can block off enemy fire when we need to get revives. When we get up to the Sadia part and we jump across, there's like a ton of ads that jump across in front of our faces, so sometimes I'll put up a wall to block them or even blind them. Catapult Lift, definitely use this. Don't use high jump. If I catch you using high jump, don't let me catch you using high jump. Then we're going to use Hammer Strike. It really doesn't matter. You could just use Baby Hammer. It doesn't make any difference. Not going to use our melee all that much. For the grenade, Thermite Grenade is definitely the go-to here, and we're going to be able to get a ton of grenades back really fast with this build. For the aspects, we have Roaring Flames, which is going to increase the strength of our abilities of both our Thermite Grenade and of our Hammer Strike. For the other aspect, we're going with Soul Invictus, which is going to give us sunspots, defeating those scorched targets, and obviously Polaris Lance is going to scorch everything because we're going to get Radiant due to the artifact mods that we'll get to in just a moment. For the fragments, we're going with Empyrean, so that way we can extend the duration of Restoration and Radiant up to 12 seconds, and then Ember of Solace, so that way when we do get Restoration, it's a little bit longer, so we can easily extend it, especially when we have to shoot enemies that are in a Grandmaster that are a little more powerful, a little more potent. For the other two, we're going with Ember of Singeing, which is going to give us class ability energy, and Ember of Searing, which is going to give us a Fire Sprite and melee energy, which basically gives us a ton of abilities. We get class ability, melee, and grenade, all because we scorch targets by shooting Polaris Lance, which is beautiful and creates a ton of ability spam. But keep in mind that when you're doing Grandmasters, your melee is extremely weak, and even your grenade can be pretty weak. You're basically only targeting red bars with your melee and your grenade when you're using these abilities, and you're only doing so when you're in a really close confined area, like for example the elevator in the Corrupted GM. For the weapons, I went with Deliverance, but you of course can use Riptide instead. I know a lot of people will do that, and I think that's an excellent option. The exotic, of course, that's focused for this build is going to be Polaris Lance. It causes crazy explosions because you're just hitting crits. I don't want to go through and re-explain Polaris Lance to everyone because I already made a previous video about it, so make sure you check that out. This thing is just an absolute beast for GMs this season though, because you can chill back safely and light up all the enemies. Lastly, I have Briar's Contempt just because it's Solar Surge, and it's also Stasis Surge, which is why we have Deliverance or Riptide. And if you have, a Stasis weapon and two solar weapons, then you're set because you have all the surges lined up perfectly. For the armor mods, on the helmet, we're going to be going with a Harmonic Siphon because, of course, Polaris Lance is lighting up a ton of enemies, creating orbs for you and nearby allies to pick up to benefit yourself from all those armor charges. And then the other two mods we're going with is Heavy Ammo Finder and Heavy Ammo Scout. This is kind of the go-to that I tell everyone to use on all three of your teammates when you're doing GMs. This will basically just make it so you always have heavy ammo, because if you're lighting up enemies with Polaris Lance, like it says right here, primary ammo exotic weapons have an increased chance to make that brick drop, and then you have Heavy Ammo Scout, then you're going to make one for your teammates. This creates a really nice infinite power ammo gameplay loop, so that way you don't have to lean so much on Cenotaph Mask Warlocks or Aeon Gauntlet Hunters, Titans or Warlocks even, I guess technically. You can basically create really good team synergy by rocking these two on your helmet. Plus there's really no other mods that you need to rock on your helmet, so these are really just the best two, and you should honestly always have these on when you're doing GMs. And then onto the gauntlets. For this particular build, I like to have Harmonic Loader, just so that way I can reload that lance a little faster because it's kind of slow. And then I have Grenade Kickstart, and the reason why is because I actually don't need my armor charges at all, and so I might as well get my armor charge stacks up high and then throw my grenade to get a big boost to my Thermite Grenade back over and over and over again. And when I cause damage with that grenade, it'll give me my class ability, which my class ability being procced on my class item, I have Bomber, so then I'll get more grenade energy back, which creates a nice gameplay loop there. And again, the reason why you don't need armor charges is because Path of the Burning Steps, the way this exotic works, it actually doesn't stack with solar weapon surges, so you don't want to have these on your boots if you're going to be using this exotic. Keep that in mind. For the chest piece, of course, we're just going with Rainbow Resist, Arc, Solar, and Void. Pretty much just do this for all GMs and stay away from enemies. Now onto the exotic, the Path of the Burning Steps. The way it works is Solar Final Blows periodically grant you an escalating bonus to weapon damage, and Solar Grenade Final Blows grant you the highest bonus, which is why we have a grenade that damages enemies instead of using something like a healing nade, because we're going to throw that Thermite Grenade out. It's going to go back and forth a couple times, kill a red bar enemy pretty consistently. You can see this even when we launch the GM right at the beginning. I just throw it before the ads come out, and that way I can get this Firewalker procced instantly. And those times 4 stacks are really powerful, and like we said before, they don't stack with surges, so no need to put those on your boots as well. The next part is actually pretty fun, especially for this GM, because there's a lot of enemies that do slow you and freeze you, and it doesn't affect you at all when you're using these boots. You're harder to slow or freeze with stasis, and when you break out, you take no damage from doing so, creating a burst of solar energy around you. Now, when you have these on, you actually won't get frozen at all. Even when the enemies shoot a silence and squall on you, it goes up to like 5 times stacks at max. So then that's nice. You won't get slowed, you won't fall off the map if that's ever happened to you before, but you'll never actually break out or get the solar energy burst around you, because you're never going to get your stacks up to 100 when you have these on. So just keep that in mind. For the mods on them, I went with stacks on stacks, so that way we get extra armor charges, so that way I can get more grenade kickstart stacks, so that way I'd get my grenade back faster. And on top of that, we have innervation. Just again, everything is leaning into those thermite grenades. They're actually really potent and fun when you have just a ton of them, and they do a lot of damage to the enemies. And then lastly, recuperation, just for some survivability. Picking up those orbs will give me some health. For the class item on this build, we're going with Powerful Attraction. Automatically collects those orbs when I pop my Titan Wall near any of them, which is nice. And obviously, you know, occasionally an orb will be behind a wall or far away from you, so this will pick it up within a big radius. And then we just have Double Bomber, so we get our grenade back every time we pop those Titan Walls, creating some really good gameplay loop and good synergy of just basically always having a thermite nade. 100 resilience is gonna be the most important thing. 100 discipline after that. All your stats after that don't matter that much at all. If I had to choose one to lean into, it would be probably recovery or intellect, because again, your melee is super weak. I mean, there's times when you like melee those red bar enemies and they don't even die when you shoulder charge them. So make sure if you do go in for a shoulder charge kill, you're gonna have Roaring Flames ×3. Like, throw your thermite, let that get a few kills, get Roaring Flames ×3, and then it's time to maybe hit a Hammer Strike. The reason why it's so weak, why Hammer Strike and Baby Hammer are really weak, is because you don't have Synthoceps on to actually buff that melee damage. So just be very mindful, you're not a Solar Titan God without those Synthoceps. And that's everything for the armor and weapons. Now we're gonna go break down the exact artifact. You're gonna want Rays of Precision. This one's essential for when rocking Polaris Lance. Rays of Precision is just gonna make those ignition kills when you're radiant, and obviously you're gonna be radiant a ton due to some of the other mods like we'll see in a moment. Then we have Revitalizing Blast, which is gonna weaken targets when you shoulder charge or throw your thermite grenade at them, which is really nice. You're basically just debuffing everything, all the ads, champions, bosses, whatever you can hit with a solar ability. And then Heart of the Flame is gonna make your Titan Hammer even more powerful when you're near enemies. You'll see when I'm at Sadia fighting them, I often pop my super and I'm able to just clear absolutely everything. And I can even kill champions with the super, which is pretty nice due to this perk right here. Torch is on, which is going to be that if I shoot something with Riptide would have Chill Clip, or if you have a weapon that's Chill Clip or a Strand Fusion Rifle, you'll end up getting a big buff to weapon damage for just a couple seconds there. And then we got Flint Striker, which is rapid solar weapon final blows, and precision hits give you Radiant, which is really nice. You're going to have a ton of Radiant, which is also going to cause you to scorch combatants due to Kindling Trigger. And then lastly, we have From Whence You Came, do more damage to Taken and Scorn. And then we have Wished Into Being, which is going to drop when your super is nearly fully charged, which is nice. And then Dragon's Bite lastly. This one, I didn't actually get this to proc too often, or at least I didn't notice, but it will freeze targets if you're using something like a Riptide, so I would recommend that. I personally went with Deliverance just because I wanted to try something new and different. It is Stasis Surge, and the demo is nice for getting my nades back. And on top of that, Surrounded, Enhanced Surrounded, in fact, is really powerful, especially with Taken Spec. I'm able to absolutely just run through ads or majors and champs even with this fusion rifle, so that's why I decided to go with this. But Riptide is probably the real winner here for the kinetic slot, at least for the Corrupted GM. For future GMs, obviously we'll have some different builds, but let me know your thoughts and ideas on this build down in the comments below. If you enjoyed, smash the like button, subscribe, and click on the screen here to watch another one from the channel. And if you're feeling thirsty out there, make sure to use code LUCKY10P to save some money on G Fuel. Also, make sure you're following me on Twitch and Kick. I go live all the time playing Destiny 2. Lastly, make sure you're following me on X, Instagram, and TikTok, where I deliver Destiny 2 news to you daily. I appreciate all the followers out there.